News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM. This is KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. 7:36 AM, and on the phone this morning, as is the case many Mondays, is Congressman Jodey Arrington. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning, Dave. How are you?
Oh, boy, we're doing well, it being a Monday and all, you know. I'll tell you what we have been talking about, and what a lot of our listeners are so concerned about is midterms. How do you see the midterms? How do you see the Republicans' chances?
Well, our chances are improving ever since the Brett Kavanaugh debacle. I think the Democrats overplayed their hand there. I think people are sick of mob rule and the circus and political theater that plays out in Washington. And it's I think the Democrats, I don't know what their agenda is, Dave, except for to resist, to investigate, to impeach. I guess socialized medicine. Maybe there are a couple of other things like repeal the taxes and prop up a failed top-down government-controlled health care system. But I think on substance we win, and I think we're not getting any help from the mainstream media. And so my colleagues and I are taking our results and successes on a safer, stronger, freer America directly to our people in the districts around the country, and we're seeing the numbers improve dramatically recently. And by the way, I think this whole caravan of illegal immigrants crossing our border, at least crossing into Mexico now, I think that's only going to play into our favor because it just feels like there's just anarchy and total disregard for the rule of law in this country.
Hey, Congressman.
That's exactly right.
I tend to agree with you. I mean, I've looked at all the statistics. The Democrats have many, many things that they're unhappy about and want to see changed. But with the Republicans, as far as I can tell, the number one thing is illegal immigration, and all they're doing by having this caravan is getting the base ready to go.
Yeah, this will be the second time they aroused the base of the Republican Party. But you can't have mob rule, and you can't have no rule of law, and you can't have a country as great as America not be in a position to protect our sovereign border. We've had 17,000 arrests of migrant families. That's a 120% increase over last year in September. And it looks like things are going to come to a head here in another couple of days as they make their way through Mexico. This isn't good for our country, number one, but I do think it will play out terribly for the Democrats because, remember, they're the party that shut our government down and put our military at risk on account of illegal immigrants. Nothing to do with our citizens and those who wear the uniform and risk their lives, but to shut the government down based on people who got into this country illegally is absurd, and more absurdity I think is going to play out before the midterms, and I think that's it's unfortunate, but I think it'll play in the Republicans' favor.
You know, Congressman, this is a lot of, I guess, as far as if the Republicans are able to hold on to the House as well as get a couple extra seats in the Senate, will they be able to potentially get President Trump's border wall, which was one of his promises that he hasn't really been able to keep yet? And is there any way to close or at least limit this asylum-seeking group that keeps coming up from South America?
And so you mentioned a few things there, Matt, that are important. First of all, our asylum policies, like other immigration laws, or parts of the immigration laws, are riddled with loopholes, and we've got to close them. So part of it's enforcing the law. President Trump and his administration is doing that, but we've got to close some loopholes like the asylum policy, where if you just come in and say that you're worried about your life back in your country, you get a free pass to go into the interior of our country, never to show up for your deportation hearing. The president, we've given him about $1 billion or so for the wall. The reason we haven't been able to get him all the money is because of the 60-vote rule in the Senate. So while we might keep the majority in the House, and I believe we will end up keeping it by a thin margin, I think we pick up seats in the Senate, but you still have that 60-vote rule. And as long as the Senate has that arbitrary 60-vote rule, you got to negotiate with the Democrats, and they've been hard pressed to give us the full funding, but we're going to keep pressing for it because we believe it's important to overall border security and stopping the madness of this illegal immigration.
Well, Congressman, we've got, according to the news is reporting this morning, that this mob of people has grown to about 7,000 now. And there's pictures of them, and they're just masses of humanity as far as you can see that are coming down the highway, I guess, heading for our border. What do they plan to do? Are they just planning to mob the border wall and just go over it, or what? I mean, what's to become of these people?
Well, what's frustrating, Dave, is that we make up 5% of the world population, the United States, but we make up 20% of the immigrant population. We are the most generous nation in the world in terms of immigration. And these folks are just absolutely taking advantage of our kindness. And this is an example of also them taking advantage of our broken immigration laws because, President Trump was enforcing the laws, and the laws on the books and the court rulings were that you couldn't keep kids detained, but you could detain parents. And so this whole separation of parents and their children came up. And now, with political pressure, the administration has changed that policy. Well, guess what? A lot of folks decided to make this trek from the Honduras because of that change in policy. So we're just aiding and abetting and encouraging this behavior. And we're getting when we provide jobs, when we provide social services that taxpayers fund, and when we allow these immigration laws to be changed on political pressure, we get what we deserve, and it's unfortunate because I think it's breaking the bank of our economy locally, and I think it's jeopardizing our security as a nation, and Texas is on the front line.
So, Congressman, before we get off of this topic, does the president have the authority to put the military on the border?
Well, according to Posse Comitatus, which is this doctrine that traditionally does not allow that, most experts would say that he doesn't. I have been pushing for the change in that law, and I would support putting military on the border. It's a national security issue, and I think it is wrong-headed to prevent the president from using our military to provide security and safety for the American people. So this will be debated.
Could this be seen as an invading force? I mean, when you have 7,000 people trying to come over?
I think it does. But I think we've seen an invading force for years. And that's why during the campaign over 2 years ago, I was calling for deploying the military to support, not to lead, but to support the Border Patrol agents and ICE and others in their pursuit to secure the border.
Okay, Congressman, we got to take a quick break. If you'll hold on, we'll take that break and be right back to you.
You bet.
And we are back here at 7:48 a.m. with Matt and Dave on KFYO Mornings, and returning to the phones, and Congressman Jodey Arrington. Matt, fire away there.
So, Congressman, the apparently it looks like, hopefully, that the Mueller probe will be coming to an end shortly, but he's going to be waiting until after the election to release anything. Is that something that there's any worries about at all?
No, I think he's doing the right thing. I think James Comey politicized that agency, and that agency is still riddled, I think, with political bias, and the deep state is alive and well, unfortunately, in the highest law enforcement agencies in the land, which is a scary thought. I think that's one of the greatest resistance to this agenda that we have and to the president. But no, I we've spent tens of millions of taxpayer dollars well over a year now investigating Russian collusion with the president. I think that if there was anything there of substance, this would have been made known long before now.
It would have been leaked a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Congressman, Politico's Darren Samuelson, he writes that critics have spent the past 17 months doing this investigation, and the Mueller's final report it will instead he says the liberals will be in for disappointment, is what he's saying. And when Mueller has decided to release this report after the midterms, doesn't that kind of indicate that he doesn't have anything? I mean, if he had something, wouldn't he have released it before the midterms?
I don't think he would have released it, but I think to Matt's point, it probably would have been leaked because you have so many what feels like DNC operatives, unfortunately, in law enforcement at DOJ and FBI. Certainly biased people. I wouldn't say go as far as to say operatives, but no, I don't. I think it's look. They've tried to shift this investigation. You don't hear the Democrats talking about Russian collusion anymore. So that gives you one idea that they've moved on to something else. So that's why they also shifted to obstruction of justice. I mean, they're just looking for anything to discredit this president.
Yeah.
So, Congressman, the Democrats have said if they gain control of the House, that they're going to use the Ways and Means Committee to release Donald Trump's tax return. Do they have the power to do that?
I don't believe so. I think that's a slippery slope when you have the government doing that, forcing citizens to do that. The president has disclosed all the financial information that any elected office holder would need to comply. And they're just, again, looking for ways to try to distract us from our agenda, which is shaping the future of this country in a very powerful way, especially on the courts. And I think what you're going to see, and this is the unfortunate thing, if we lose the House, is just incessant, endless investigations and impeachment hearings, and we will come to a grinding halt in terms of the progress we've made to grow this economy, strengthen our military, and defend the Constitution and rule of law.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead, Congressman. We take one more quick break, and we'll come back and you can tell us what you've been doing in the district.
You bet.
All right. Sounds good.
News Talk 95.1 FM 790 AM. We are KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. And back to the phones we go with Congressman Jodey Arrington. So, Congressman, what is going on in our district?
Oh, we've got 29 counties, so we got a lot going on. But I think the majority of the sentiment by our people is that they're deeply disturbed by the tactics deployed by Democrats during the Kavanaugh hearing, and they see more of the same if we lose the House, just like we've been talking about. So I think they're concerned about, continuing to make progress, supporting this president, and the first and foremost job responsibility, which is securing our border and strengthening our military. He's done everything he said he would do, Dave, and I've supported him every step of the way. We've got to get a farm bill done. That comes up a lot. We're being held up by, surprisingly, Democrats who don't want even a 20-hour work week as a requirement for able-bodied adults on food stamps. Just 20 hours. Don't even have to work. You could volunteer. You can get trained. And Democrats don't even want to support that. That's how out of touch they are.
Congressman, do y'all need 60 votes in the Senate for that to go through?
We do. But if we can get a consensus at the conference committee on which I serve, then we'll get the 60 votes. It's just that they can hold it up in conference as they have. They're hoping their hand improves in terms of negotiation after the midterms. They're going to lose more seats in the Senate.
Yeah, I believe they will too.
Yeah.
Okay.
One project we've been doing I want to mention is called the Fallen West Texas Warrior Project, and we're basically going to the high schools around our district where a post 9/11 soldier has died in action, and we're presenting a flag to the school. We're presenting it on behalf of their family. We fly the flag over the Capitol in honor of that soldier, fallen soldier, and we're doing it to honor the family, but we're also trying to send a message to these young people who walk the halls of the high school and stare at that flag and that picture and ask, who is that guy, and what did he do, and what's so unique about him that he would give his life for this country. And I think making that message clear that freedom isn't free and that there are people right now standing in the gap between us and the enemy, protecting our freedom and security, I think is critical to stewarding the culture of West Texas forward. And so that's something we do just about everywhere we go now.
And Congressman, I'll tell you, that just reminds me, we do, those of us who support and have worked with Honor Flight do appreciate you taking the time to meet our veterans last week, I guess it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was awesome, almost 150 of them. And we went to the floor of the house and got to visit with them and met a guy that was a World War II veteran. At 95 years old, told me how he slept for years under an American flag just because of his love for this country and what it stands for. So those guys inspire me. I'm blessed beyond words to get to represent West Texas and heroes like the gentleman I mentioned.
Congressman, coming up on a hard break here, got to run. Thanks
bet.
so much for the conversation this morning. We appreciate
Likewise. Go West Texas.
Okay, 7. Let's just say 8 o'clock in round numbers, and we'll take a break. Be right back after this.